You're so right. The SABC's interim board has now been in office for almost a month. The board has met the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA, SABC staff members and other stakeholders already in that time, looking at the problems besetting the public broadcaster. Well, joining me now in studio is interim board chairperson, Khanyisile Kweyama. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Peter.
So have you had a chance to see the enormity of the work on your table?
Yeah, absolutely. It really has been being on rollerblades from the time that the President announced our appointment to meeting various parliamentary committees, SCOPA, the Portfolio Committee on Communications, and of course having engagements with the newly appointed Minister Ayanda Dlodlo, as well as the department. So yeah, there hasn't been a dull moment in the past month or so.
All right, so the public are watching. It's a public broadcaster. They want to know from you, what are you going to do to gain their confidence back?
Well, this is part of that exercise. You know, for many months, the corporation did not have a board. And you know what that means when there's a plane in the air, but you realize there isn't a pilot there. So just for us to be out there hearing what people are saying and also reassuring the public that we are seized with the matters that are bothering the corporation. The staff morale is a big issue. People don't know whether they have jobs today, whether they will have jobs in a month or two. The finances, people have obviously been speculating about the SABC being in the red. So we have been spending the past couple of weeks working on that. We've been engaging with various stakeholders. We engaged with the producers. We've engaged with just various members of staff as well as the public. Like you said, we've already met with ICASA, who's our regulator, to ensure that we get a grasp of the matters. We've had an induction with executive and senior management so that we understand the corporation. We know who's in which box and what drives the corporation. So yeah, you can see that.
Let's deal with some of those matters. Some of them have been more public than others. First one, I guess, is legal issues. The Public Protector's report. How are you going to respond to that? Are you going to implement everything that's in there?
Well, you are aware that the corporation had taken the report on review. And this is one of the decisions we have to make as a board, whether we are continuing with that. Clearly that there was an investigation that took place and there were recommendations say that there are issues that we have to implement. But management has obviously pointed out to us that there are certain areas that we need to test against certain laws, and we will be doing that.
Former COO, Mr. Mertz Burning, had a press conference literally this week. He made some scathing remarks about the board, even called Mr. Naidu a liar and that he shouldn't be on the board. What's your response to that, and what action are you going to take, if any?
Well, we've communicated with Mr. Mertz Burning now, but unlike going out and talking in public, if we have issues with you, as Peter Ndoro, we communicate with you as a staff member. So we have done that, and obviously we await responses from him so that we can move forward on that matter.
One of the things that he spoke about, and he had a lot of people there supporting it, was this whole issue of 90% local content on radio and 80% on television. Is this something that you're going to look at? People are suggesting that this may be contributing to some of the losses that we're seeing in our financial statements. Have you had a chance to assess this? Yes,
we are doing exactly that. You know, there are implications on costs of the 90-10%. We have obviously been in engagement with ICASA so that we first understand what the regulations require. And based on that, we are then in the process of quantifying what it means, what the impact is, and the governance around that decision. You know, it sometimes gets called a directive, sometimes it gets called a decision, and we are testing whether all the necessary levels of management at the SABC were party to that. Is that something you might
review and change?
Possibly. Possibly. You know, when I say to you, ICASA has got certain regulations. Having said that, you know, as a South African public broadcaster, we understand the rationale behind local content. to ensure that South African music is played, to ensure that there is footage, there are movies that are South African. I don't think anybody questions that. But as to the bar that you set on it and doing that with or without considering what the costs are to the corporation, that is what we have to dig deep into and ensure that by the time we come out with a policy or a decision that is made by the board, it has taken all those into account.
What about the newsroom itself? Because that's our major product in terms of what gives us credibility. Questions have been raised whether we're partial, impartial, whether we are subject to political maneuvers. Have you had a chance to assess that? And what are you hoping to be able to have done by the end of your work?
Look, if you ask me one line of what I would say to the newsroom is that it must be balanced. You know, it cannot be that you say the view of one political party, whether it's the ruling party or the opposition. There has to be balanced reporting across the board. And our reviews and ensuring, because we've found that here many times what is practice is not necessarily policy or has not necessarily been approved. So we just need to go through those with a fine-tooth comb and determine what is rules, what is expected of a public broadcaster, and ensure that all those are aligned.
Have you been able to get a sense from the staff what the state of affairs at the public broadcaster are?
We had an engagement with staff, what you call rediffusion, where we talk to staff here, but are able to talk to all the regions. And their staff had an opportunity to tell us their concerns. And I mean, they range from the issues around editorial policy, about freedom to be a journalist, to issues around my job and this job that I was appointed to, and now I'm no longer doing it, to issues around how management treats staff and all that. So we are following up on those, understanding that a board is not the executive, you know, so we're not going to be sitting in each and every disciplinary and saying do this, but we need to establish principles across the board as to how you treat employees, how you deal with promotions, how you deal with new appointments and all those, to ensure that those policies are in place and that people are not disadvantaged unfairly. You know, we have great people here. We have talent. A lot of the other broadcasters get their talent from here. So it says that instead of having an environment that just keeps on forcing people to leave, we must have an environment that makes people want to be part of the public broadcaster, to feel that they have room for growth in the public broadcaster and that they can reach their highest levels. And we need to be driving and leading those behaviors, starting with top management, to ensure that it filters down to all the levels and ensures that everybody is happy to come here. All
right, talking about top management, we don't have a CEO, we don't have a COO, and also I think head of radio. What are we doing about that?
The board has taken a decision to advertise those positions immediately. So as soon as we can get the spec and make sure that it's properly written and it's fair and everything, it will go out. You know, you are probably aware that the CEO position was advertised a couple of months ago, and we feel that probably at the time the SABC was in quite a bit of turmoil, that some professionals may not necessarily have wanted to be associated with the SABC. So to that end, we are going to extend that advert by a month, so that those who now feel the SABC is back on track and is a leader that fits the bill could also apply. And so yeah, we are advertising. If you want to apply.
All of this can only happen really if we get our finances together. 3 years of financial losses have been reported. And I just wonder, have you been able to identify what the problems have been and a way to address them? Is it likely that the SABC is going to need a bailout from Treasury?
Possibly, but and you know, to underestimate or to understate the problem would be doing a disservice to the SABC. It is in a financial crisis. Having said that, when you say that, people then ask questions, am I going to get paid at the end of the month? And I think having gone through the finances and literally every day keeping track of bank accounts and all those, we are comfortable that people will get paid at the end of the month. However, we have other debtors, we have other creditors that we need to look at. We have been working with a team from the Executive Authority, the Department of Communications, as well as Treasury to review fully the finances of the SABC and, yes, to approach Treasury to assist, because we also cannot be month to month, determining whether we have enough money month to month.
But no job losses on the horizon?
I don't want to say that, because the reality of it is that the previous time when a guarantee was obtained from Treasury, there were costs, and we shouldn't always equate costs with people. So it says there are costs that need to be cut. The size of the SABC needs to be looked at. Is everybody, are there two people in one job? Is there a person and an acting person? All those things have to be put together so that we come up with a solution for the SABC.
All right, perhaps finally, you've got 6 months on the job.
Yes.
When can we start to get feedback in terms of decisions made and next steps?
Well, this is part of it. We've already told you we are going to advertise and appoint leadership, because if you don't have leadership, then none of this can flow. When people are acting, they don't sometimes make the decisions they're supposed to be making. We want to communicate with the SABC staff internally as well with the public, every 3 weeks or so, every month. Because 6 months, you can't say I'll communicate every quarter. So we will get an update. You will obviously be the first to hear in the next 3 weeks or so, at least within a month, so that we tell you at what phase we are of implementation.
Great. Thank you very, very much indeed for coming through and sharing your thoughts with us. The SABC chairperson of the interim board, Mayor Khanyisile Kweyama, talking to us there. That's where we're going to leave it for the time being.